verse 213. It's a lengthy verse, so I'll go through the translation only. Initially, the entire mankind was one nation, having one religion, that there is no God but Allah alone, and we shall be resurrected on the doomsday, that is, returned to Him for the final judgment. Then they went astray. People invented their other religions, and so Allah dispatched His messengers as bearers of good news and warnings and revealed to them the truth book with pure and clear guidance to settle the issues on which they differed and wrangled because of their own internal rivalries. Those people who were given the book, in spite of very clear injunctions that it contained, disputed over it, and it is Allah alone who gives the straight path to whosoever He wills. 214 Am hasibtum an tadkhulul jannata walamma yatikum masalul lazina khalaw min qablikum masathumul basa wa zarra wa zulzulu hatta yaqulu rasulu wallazina amanu ma'ahu mata nasrullahi ala inna nasrullahi qareeb. 214 Do you think you would go to heaven, whereas you haven't suffered the way people earlier suffered? They faced hardship and misery and were shaken up so violently that even the Prophet and those with him who believed cried out as to when would the help of Allah come. Be aware, listen, the help of Allah is very close, imminent. 215 يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ كُلْ مَا أَنْفَقْتُم مِّنْ خَيْرٍ لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ. 215 The believers ask you as to what should they spend in the way of Allah. Tell them, whatever you spend on your parents. Tell them, whatever you spend on your parents and close relatives, on orphans and on destitute, poor who have no sources of income, and on the travelers, guests, and whatever good that you do, definitely Allah knows it extremely well. With this, gentlemen, we begin with the subject has been touched, that is the right of the parents, and I shall cover a few other verses of Qur'an and the sayings of the Prophet on this subject, that is the right of the parents, which is a major difference between the Muslims and the Western society. In the verse 17, Bani Israel, verse 23, is translation, and your Rabb, Creator, has ordered that you do not worship, obey, be subservient to anyone other than Him, that is Allah, and that you be respectful, good, kind, obedient, helpful, obliging to your parents. I repeat, and that you be respectful, good, kind, obedient, helpful, obliging to your parents. And if one of them, or for the matter both of them, reach old age in your presence while you are alive, don't retrace, say unpleasant things, or be rude to them, nor be harsh or insolent to them, and speak to them with respect. Don't enter into polemics, arguments with them. Verse 36, Surah Bani Israel, wa Abdullah wa la tushriku bihi shay'an wa bil walidaini ihsana. And worship, be subservient, obedient to Allah, and don't have with Him any associates, shareholders, demigods, etc. And be respectful, good, kind, obedient, helpful, obliging to your parents. I repeat, and be respectful, good, kind, obedient, helpful, obliging to your parents, and have no hang-ups about the authority, rights of the parents. Second, to the authority, rights of Allah and His Prophet. Surah 29 Ankabut verse 8 وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِالْوَالِدَيْهِ حُسْنًا وَإِنْ جَاهَدَكَ لِتُشْرِكَ بِهِ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا إِلَىٰ أَنَّ مَرْجِعَكُمْ فَأُنَبِّئُكُم بِمَا كُنتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. The obedience of parents follows the obedience of Allah and His Prophet, and so we have ordered the man, every individual, to be extremely kind, courteous to the parents. And however disobeying Allah and His Prophet on the behest or orders or directions, compulsions from anyone, any corner is not permitted. Even if the parents force you to their optimum to have other gods, associates, demigods, or they ask you to adopt disbelievers' ways and values as opposed to Sunnah, for which you have no knowledge, no reason, do not obey, follow them. In this regard, don't feel morose, gloomy, be sure this is also one of your tests. And ultimately, you all have to come back to me, stand in the altar, then I'll let you know what all you were up to. Surah 46, Araf, verse 59, and verse 15 and 16, they are lengthy verses, وَسَيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِالْوَالِدِ إِحْسَانًا, and finish at صِدْقُ الَّذِي كَانُوا يُوعَدُونَ, the translation. And we have ordered the man to be respectful, good, kind, obedient, helpful, obliging to his parents. The mother carried him or her in the womb with difficulty and gave birth with pain, difficulty, till the time the individual reached full strength, 40s, and said, O my Rabb, Creator, put it in my fate that I remain grateful for the great favor that you have done me and to my parents, and that I do pious deeds that propitiate, appease you, and give me pious offsprings. I am repentant, seek your forgiveness, and I surrender myself to you as your obedient. These are the people from whom we approve the best of deeds. They have done, and forgive them shortcomings, shortfalls. They'll be among the heaven dwellers, the most truthful promise that is made to them. O people ask you, verse 2:15 again, O people ask you, what should we spend in the way of Allah? Tell them, whatever you spend in the way of Allah or otherwise, your parents have the first and foremost right. Surah Luqman, verse 31. And we have instructed the man to recognize, deliver the rights of his parents, especially the right obligation to his mother, who carries him or her when weak, during pregnancy, then delivers, and then feeds. Parents have the greatest right in the society. The Qur'an and the Prophet directed repeatedly to avoid being megalomaniacs, that is, having exaggerated view of one's own importance, power, and to remain humble, subservient, obedient, and devoted in serving the parents. One can never repay them. There can be no supererogation, that is, doing more than wanted in delivering their rights. Arrogant demeanor, conduct in dealing with the parents is most disliked, abhorred by Allah. Abu Imama Raziyullah Ta'ala states that the person inquired about the obligation of the children towards their parents, that is, the rights of the parents, from the Prophet, peace be upon him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, parents are the nub, that is the cause of your going to heaven, and parents are the nub, the cause of your going to hell. That is, if you keep them happy, pleased, you will go to heaven. And if they die in a state that they are displeased, unhappy, annoyed with you, you will go to the hell. Ibn Majah. Once an individual came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and began complaining about his father that he takes his money, items of utility, etc., whenever he likes. The Prophet, peace be upon him, asked for his father to come. And an enfeebled old man appeared, leaning, hunched on his stick. On inquiring, the old man began speaking, said, O Prophet of Allah, there was a time when he was feeble and helpless, and I was strong. I was rich, and he was empty-handed. I never stopped him taking my things. Today, I am weak, and he is healthy and energetic, powerful. I am empty-handed, and he is rich. Now he keeps his money, things, etc., away from my reach. The soft, kind-hearted Prophet, peace be upon him, wept on hearing the old man thus, and addressing the old man's son said, You and your property belong to your father. He said, You and your property belong to your father. Tirmidhi. Abdullah bin Umar Raziyullah Ta'ala Anhu stated that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, Allah's pleasure is in the pleasure of the father, and Allah's displeasure in the displeasure of the father. Tirmidhi, Ibn Haban, Ibn Hakim. Abu Sayyid Raziyullah Ta'ala Anhu states that a man came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, from Yemen. The Prophet inquired from him, Do you have someone in Yemen? He replied, Yes, my parents. Prophet inquired, Have they permitted you? The man said, No, I didn't ask them. The Prophet said, Okay, go back and seek permission from your parents. If they permit you, then you participate in jihad, war in the way of Allah. If they permit you, then you participate in jihad, war in the way of Allah. Otherwise, stay with them and serve them. Abu Dawud. The Prophet stated, peace be upon him, the man is ineluctably, inescapably ruined. Surely then he is ruined. Surely then he is ruined. The people asked, O Prophet of Allah, which man? The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, the individual who finds his or her parents being old, both or any one of them, and doesn't look after, serve them to enter the heaven. Muslim. The Qur'an and the florid, very elaborate sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, establish the rights of the parents secondary to those of Allah, the Creator, only. There were times when the sons were referred to as the slaves of the fathers. The believers are directed not to walk ahead of their father, not to sit before the parents take seat. They are duty-bound to remain implacably, unchangeably pleasant, disposed towards the parents at all times, under all conditions, circumstances, with no exceptions whatsoever, especially when the parents are old. Always serving them humbly oriented, having endearments, expressions of love, affections, no grumbling, no scowls, wrinkling the eyebrows, menacing, angry, or disapproving looks permitted at all. Allah detests scowling even at parents. Jazakallah.